You think holding on keeps your life together. You tell yourself that clinging, gripping, refusing to release is what protects you from chaos, from loss, from the uncertainty that lurks around every corner. But what if I told you it's not keeping you safe at all? What if the very thing you believe is your shield is slowly, silently, tearing you apart from the inside? What if the anxiety that gnaws at the edges of your mind, the overthinking that traps you in endless loops, the constant, suffocating fear that you'll lose what matters most, is not caused by life, by circumstances, by other people, but by your own attachment to it all? Because here is the truth. The tighter you hold, the more you resist, the more desperately you try to control, the more you suffer. And the irony, the cruel twist, is that the very thing you think will save you is the thing that binds you, chains you, keeps you trapped. Today, right here, right now, you're going to see why. You're going to feel it in your bones. And when you understand it, everything starts to shift. Welcome to the Cipher Phantom. This isn't just another idea you'll hear and forget. This isn't a fleeting thought, a motivational soundbite, or a phrase to scroll past. This is a shift in perception, a quiet, deep, unsettling shift that changes how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you see the very fabric of life itself. Because attachment is one of the most misunderstood forces that quietly rules your existence. It hides behind masks you trust. It pretends to be love when it's fear. It pretends to be ambition when it's insecurity. It pretends to be control when it's desperation. And yet, you let it in. You follow its scripts. You obey its rules without even realizing it. Beneath the surface of what you call desire, need, or commitment, lurks fear. Fear of loss. Fear of uncertainty. Fear that without someone or something outside of yourself, you are not enough. Not worthy. Not whole. Not complete. And until you see it, truly see it, attachment will silently dictate your choices, your reactions, your peace, your very sense of self. It controls who you trust. It controls who you love. It controls how you act. It controls what you allow into your life. And here's the question you must confront, the one that cuts through every illusion. What really happens when you finally, truly let go? When you stop clinging to outcomes? When you stop gripping onto people, moments, or things? When you release the need to control what was never yours to control in the first place? What happens then? Because the answer is not simple. It is not immediate. It is transformative. And today, we're going to explore it. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Control. You were never meant to hold on this tightly. Not to people. Not to outcomes. Not to the version of life you imagined or convinced yourself had to happen. And yet, here you are, clinging, gripping, holding with every ounce of your strength, as if the act of holding could somehow keep the world from crumbling. You tighten your control, believing that if you just hold on hard enough, nothing will slip away. You whisper to yourself that this is protection, security, wisdom. But here's the truth. What you call control is an illusion. Because attachment is not control. It never was. What you're really doing is resisting the natural flow of life. You are trying to lock the river in place, to freeze the wind, to stop the inevitable. And in that resistance, you create friction. You create tension. You create a wall between yourself and reality. You believe you're securing your future, but in reality, you're creating obstacles. You're building chains, not safety nets. You're not steering the course, you're struggling against the current. And life always pushes back against resistance. It bends you. It breaks your rhythm. It confronts you with situations you cannot control, forcing you to see the futility of your grip. The irony is sharp, brutal, almost cruel. The tighter you hold, the less you experience. The more you try to anchor yourself, the more life slips through your fingers. The more you resist change, the more life changes you anyway. And here's the first lesson you need to understand. Control is not about holding on. Control is not about certainty. Control is about clarity. Clarity to see what you can influence. Clarity to accept what you cannot. Clarity to act from strength rather than from fear. And until you see this, until you truly understand the illusion you've been living under, your grip will tighten, your anxiety will grow, and your freedom will remain just out of reach. Because the paradox is simple, yet profound. The moment you stop trying to control is the moment life begins to move through you rather than against you. Chapter 2. Attachment is fear in disguise. Attachment is not love. Attachment is not commitment. It is not loyalty. It is not devotion. It wears the mask of necessity, the mask of desire, the mask of responsibility. But beneath that mask, beneath the carefully constructed illusion, lurks fear. Attachment is fear, dressed up in familiar clothing. It whispers to you in the quiet moments, in the shadows of your mind. Don't let go, or you'll lose everything. It repeats itself in subtle ways, through doubt, through tension, through that incessant need to control. But what it never tells you is this: by holding on, by clinging, by gripping so tightly, you've already begun to lose yourself. You lose the calm that once belonged to you. You lose the freedom to move naturally. You lose the clarity to see life as it is, not as your fear demands it to be. When you are attached, your peace is no longer your own. It becomes conditional, fragile, something that depends entirely on forces outside your control. You feel good only when circumstances align with your expectations. You feel secure only when people behave according to the script you've written for them. You feel worthy only when outcomes validate your existence. And that is the trap. It is subtle. It is silent. It creeps in until you can barely remember a time when your happiness didn't rely on someone else's actions, on some future event, on some fragile illusion of permanence. Attachment convinces you that you are safe while quietly stripping you of your strength. It convinces you that you are loved while chaining your heart to uncertainty. It convinces you that you are in control while keeping you tethered to a reality that doesn't bend to your will. And yet, even as it binds you, you cling because fear is persistent, because the unknown is terrifying, because letting go feels like losing everything you think you need. But here is the paradox. The very thing you fear losing is not what you need to keep. True peace, true clarity, true freedom are found only when you finally see attachment for what it really is and release it. Chapter 3: The Root of Suffering. Life does not obey your expectations. No matter how carefully you plan, no matter how tightly you hold onto certainty, no matter how much you try to bend reality to your will, life will not follow your script. People will not behave the way you imagined. Circumstances will not unfold according to the neat, ordered pattern you designed in your mind. Outcomes rarely, ever, align with your desires. And so what happens? You suffer, not because life is cruel, not because the universe is punishing you, not because others are intentionally working against you. You suffer because you resist. You resist what is. You resist change. You resist the flow of time, the unpredictability of people, the uncertainty of every unfolding moment. You are trying, desperately trying, to freeze something that was never meant to stay still. The more you fight, the more you cling, the more you try to force reality into your own hands, the harder life pushes back, and the suffering intensifies. Anxiety creeps into your mind like a shadow, uninvited but relentless. Control tightens around you, like iron chains you willingly wrap around your own wrists. Exhaustion seeps into every part of you, physical, mental, emotional, leaving you hollow, drained, and restless. Until one day, something inside you breaks. Not in a loud explosion, not with dramatic fanfare, but quietly, silently, with the subtle, unnerving clarity that whispers, "You cannot keep living like this." The breaking point does not come from life's cruelty. It comes from your unwillingness to flow with it, from your attachment, your desire to hold, your insistence on controlling the uncontrollable. And here is the lesson hidden in the pain. Suffering is never punishment. Suffering is a signal from reality, telling you to release, to yield, to stop resisting. Because until you stop resisting, until you stop trying to freeze what is meant to move, you will remain trapped, bound to a life of tension, anxiety, and exhaustion, always chasing control, always fearing loss, always losing yourself in the struggle. Chapter 4: The Moment of Realization. Not loudly, not with fireworks, not with sudden chaos or dramatic upheaval, but quietly, in the stillness of your mind, in the pauses between thoughts, a realization begins to stir. A moment of truth that creeps in softly, almost imperceptibly, whispering, almost teasing, "I can't keep living like this." It doesn't yell. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't force action. It simply waits until you notice it. until you feel it deep in your chest. And in that moment, the world tilts slightly. Time seems to slow. Your perspective shifts. You are confronted with a choice. Hold on. Cling to what you know. Cling to the patterns you've followed for years. And continue the endless cycle of control, resistance, and suffering. Or let go. To release the grip you've been holding so tightly. To surrender the illusion of control. To step into uncertainty and into freedom. This is where most people hesitate. This is where most hearts tremble and minds argue. Because letting go feels like losing. Losing people. Losing outcomes. Losing the life you've tried to construct. Losing the identity you've built around your attachments. But here's the paradox, the quiet, unsettling truth. Letting go is not loss. It is not weakness. It is not surrender in the way you imagine. It is the beginning of everything. The doorway to clarity. The path to peace. The moment when suffering begins to dissolve. When life begins to move through you, rather than against you. And in that fragile, trembling instant, you sense it. A freedom that you never thought possible. A space inside you that has always been waiting for you to stop resisting. It is the first step toward living, truly living. Beyond fear, beyond control, beyond attachment. Chapter 5. The Power of Letting Go. Letting go is not giving up. It is not surrender in the sense of failure. It is not weakness disguised as acceptance. It is not indifference, apathy, or detachment from life. It is something far deeper, far stronger, far more transformative. It is clarity. Because when you finally let go of attachment, when you release the grip you've held onto so tightly, something remarkable happens. You don't lose control. You realize you never truly had it. The control you thought you wielded was always an illusion. A fragile construct, a mask you wore to hide the uncertainty that terrified you. And strangely, beautifully, that realization sets you free. Suddenly, the constant struggle, the ceaseless worry, the endless effort to hold everything together begins to dissolve. You stop chasing outcomes. Because outcomes are no longer the measure of your peace. You stop needing life to bend in your favor. Because you finally see that life is not against you. It is simply life. You stop needing people to complete you, to validate you, to fill the gaps you've been pretending were empty. Instead, you begin to appreciate them, without fear of losing them, without clinging, without grasping. You stop forcing things to work. Stop controlling the uncontrollable. Stop trying to mold reality to fit your expectations. And in that release, in that quiet, deliberate letting go, what is real begins to reveal itself. Opportunities, connections, and experiences begin to flow naturally, unforced, unpressured, aligned with the rhythm of life itself, not the rhythm of your fear. And in that flow, you find a freedom you didn't know was possible, a calm that cannot be shaken by circumstances, a strength that doesn't need validation from others, a peace that lives inside you, regardless of what is happening outside. Letting go is not loss. It is not emptiness. It is awakening. It is stepping into a life that has always been there, waiting for you to stop resisting and start truly living. Chapter 6. The Paradox of Freedom. And here's the paradox. The very thing you feared losing, the very thing you clung to so tightly, was never holding you. It was holding you back. Because the moment you finally let go, the moment you release your grip, the chains you didn't even realize were around your mind and heart begin to fall away. And then, strangely, beautifully, things begin to flow. Opportunities appear without force. Paths you never considered suddenly open before you. Doors that were once invisible now swing wide. Connections deepen naturally, effortlessly, without pressure. Conversations that once felt forced now unfold with ease. Decisions that used to paralyze you suddenly become clear, almost obvious. Without overthinking, without struggle, without desperation. Because you are no longer clouded by fear. You are no longer guided by attachment. You are no longer trapped in the endless loops of what if and if only. You are present, fully, deeply, undeniably present. Not distracted by anxiety, regret, or expectation. Not projecting the future or reliving the past. In that state, you act without needing a specific result. You move without clinging to outcomes. You pursue without desperation. You love without trying to possess. You give without expecting in return. You exist without needing validation. Because you have finally discovered that you are enough, whole, complete, right here, right now. And in that space, life begins to reveal its secrets. Paths appear that were always there, but invisible under the weight of your fear. People and experiences flow to you naturally, not because you chase them, but because you are aligned with your own inner truth. And here is the paradox, the beautiful irony. Freedom is not found in holding on. It is found in release, in surrender, in trust. And in that release, you discover a life far richer, far deeper, far more vivid than anything you could have orchestrated by force. This is the freedom that attachment cannot touch, the peace that control cannot grant, the clarity that comes only when you finally let go. So ask yourself, what are you still holding on to? What chains have you wrapped around yourself, quietly, almost without noticing, because you fear that if you release them, everything you've built, or everything you think you need, will collapse? What are you afraid to release? Not because it isn't precious, but because you've been taught, or convinced, or quietly tricked into believing that your peace, your happiness, your sense of worth depends entirely on it. And pause for a moment. Consider this. What is it costing you to keep holding on? The sleepless nights, the constant tension, the quiet anxiety that lingers at the edges of every thought, the exhaustion of fighting a current you cannot stop, the moments of joy diluted, because even in happiness, you are still gripping, still fearing, still resisting. Because here is the undeniable truth. The moment you finally let go, the moment you release that grip, you reclaim what has always been yours. Your power, your peace, your clarity, your freedom. It is not given to you by others. It is not handed to you by circumstances. It is not found in holding tightly to outcomes, people, or things. It is found within, and it awakens the moment you stop resisting and choose to release. If this shifted something in you, if you felt the truth behind these words, then don't just watch and forget. Pause, reflect, apply. And if you're ready to break free from the patterns controlling your life, subscribe to the Cypher Phantom. Because here, we don't just think differently, we see through the illusion.